What's going on, good people? It's your boy David Johns, and I'm back with another installment of Three Things. Not only are we on location, but this edition of Three Things is really designed to help us get to know each other a bit more. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar or do not know, I'm a Cali kid. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. To be more specific, for those who are familiar with the topography, I was actually born in Culver City, California, and spent most of my life being raised literally on the border between Inglewood and Ladera Heights. I'm going to take you to a few places that have been instrumental in helping to create the man I am today. What's going on, good people? I am back on location now at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. Now, this, to many people in LA, is the heart of the community, or has been for a long time. And that's particularly true when we think about economic development. Over my shoulder, the Cinemark used to be the Magic Johnson Theater. I believe it was an AMC theater when he introduced the theater to the community through that partnership. And what I remember is that before this theater was here, my family and I would go to a smaller theater not too far from here, the Baldwin Hills movie theater. But it wasn't until Magic Johnson opened this place that I felt like there was a space for our community. There was something about the staff and the music and the feel of the space, the events that they would host for the community that really made it feel like it was a space for us. And the investment in this theater became an anchor for this mall, this shopping mall. And it really drew a significant amount of attention and economic opportunity to this area. One of the complications of that happening that's really explored beautifully in a book entitled Black City Makers by Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter is what happens when white folks are attracted to economic opportunities that involve displacing and exploiting communities that otherwise call those spaces home. To be clear, on the other side of that building, the mall is Crenshaw Avenue. We are not too far from where Nipsey Hussle created his legacy, contributed to this community, taught the babies about the importance of continuing in that legacy. Definitely a legacy that Magic Johnson stood in, that he stood in as well, and where he unfortunately was also murdered. And what we have to think about, and that's important for me because I think the tensions get exacerbated in a way that contribute to everything wrapped up in the things that I have been shared. What we have to think about is that we deserve spaces to feel and be protected, really to just be, ... three ellipses. The Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, while now 50% vacant in part because of the Pantene Provia, or the novel coronavirus, for those of you who won't understand that reference, has been in discussion in the news in the area recently, actually for the last few years, but especially recently because of questions about ownership. And the building was sold today, as I'm recording this video, to an investment group that has very little minority, and in particular Black leadership or interest. And there has been and will continue to be community concern about the consequences of the decision to allow that group to take over ownership of this building, especially when there were other groups that included members of this community who also happen to be Black. To be clear, this is about not only representation, but acknowledging that we also have expertise and skills and resources that are too often not valued when economic exchanges are made. And so my fear is that this space that I have so many fond memories of, you can't see it now because there's a huge parking structure, but on the other side of this parking lot where Miss Debbie Allen has her studio where she teaches the babies about our connection to performance and art through dance. There also used to be a fast food restaurant. They used to serve kids' meals in box-like convertible cars. And anyone who's seen Boys in the Hood will recognize this as a space where Doughboy was shot. This just happens to be my LA. Welcome to it. I'm back and I'm sitting in Ladera Park, and I could walk less than 5 minutes to a home that I could draw very vivid memories of to this moment. What's interesting about this park, Ladera Park, which sits between Inglewood, which is, there's a physical barrier, a geographical marker, 3 blocks away this direction. Ladera Heights is almost like an L shape. It starts where I am and grows out this way toward Marina Del Rey and the ocean. And then there's View Park, which is a community that sits atop a hill. It backs up against Windsor Hills and a few other places. But it's atop what is referred to as the Jungles, which was popularized in Training Day, which was also referenced in HBO's Insecure. I was gonna say Issa Rae's Insecure, same difference, to use my sister's phrase. And what I often think about is that the Jungles was the name given to that community because people who were more fluent and more privileged and could afford the larger, bigger, more beautiful homes in View Park or Ladera Heights atop the hills would refer to the trees and the foliage in that area, and which provided canopy and protection and are beautiful as the jungle. And of course, over time, and with the intentional investment of politicians who were intent on divesting from and otherwise destroying poor, impoverished, Black and brown and otherwise minoritized communities, the Jungles became something that was anything but beautiful in the ways in which the word might have initially suggested. 3 things I love and appreciate as an adult now, reflecting upon growing up here. 1, LA is much like a few cities in the world, a place where you have access to so many richly diverse experiences and cuisines and cultural expressions. And I appreciate being in a space where I had access to, and in many ways as a child was exposed to some of the best parts and some of the worst parts about living in the world, but I also felt really protected and safe. The second thing that I appreciate about the LA that I grew up in, and I had the chance to reflect upon this in a documentary that I recently recorded that I can't wait to share more information with you about, is that I felt like there was such a strong sense of community here. In particular, I always knew Black folks who were not bound to me by blood, but were tethered in some palpable way, who were intimately and intensely committed to conspiring for my success. And so whether it was some of the recreational activities I participated in here, our Darby Park, our Rogers Park, or my Kaju Kimbo karate family, or the Sheriff's Explorer Law Enforcement Family Program that my mother signed me up for. To be clear, she signed me up for everything. And as an unapologetic member of the Mama's Boys Club, I did it. I felt a sense of community and really struggle to think how my life might have, what the pathway might have looked like if I didn't have that as an anchor. And then the third thing that I think about when I reflect upon my time in LA is that it's almost always beautiful here. Tony lied, it definitely rains in Southern California, but on any given day, the opportunity to have your skin, which is already kissed by the sun, be enveloped by the warmth of it, is a feeling that you can't get in many places. And so I don't want to start no East Coast, West Coast beef, but this LA boy will always appreciate being birthed in the sun. Fun fact, behind the scenes moment. This is Ladera Park, and you will recognize Ladera Park if you watch any 90s movie with some combination of Taye Diggs, Shamar Moore, or Morris Chestnut, because this is where they often came to play basketball. I'm standing at Pali High, Pacific Palisades High School, which is where I graduated some years ago, class of 2020, always proud. Fun fact, LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District, is one of the largest school districts in the country, And Pacific Palisades is a community, a coastal community. We are less than 5 minutes away from the beach, my happy place. And it's an exceptionally privileged community, not only based on wealth, but it's a place that has almost always been exclusively occupied by non-Black, mostly white people. And the Palisades High School was included in the district's attempts in the late 80s, early 90s to address the problem really that access to opportunity in so many places throughout the country, including Los Angeles and surrounding counties, is predicated based on code, zip code or genetic code. And so there were policy decisions made to invest in things like busing and integration programs through magnets and charter programs designed to, of course, enrich opportunities for privileged white people who benefit from diversity, but to also provide an exceptional few of us access to the pathways that are otherwise preserved for them. And so I was able to come to this school in a legacy of folks who took a bus. I took an hour bus ride each way to and from school for the vast majority of my schooling experience. And there are so many stories I can tell about this place, but suffice it to say that I learned to not only show up and show out in the face of white supremacy, but to do so while remaining connected to the community that continues to conspire for my success. And so this is Pali High.